Back yesterday, the acting Chief Justice Raymond Zond responded to the ANC's NEC member and Tourism Minister Lindiwe Sisulu's opinion piece that criticised the judiciary. Zondo said it was an insult. So what constitutes freedom of speech? Was the acting Chief Justice entitled to respond in the way that he did? Professor Thuli Madonsela is a professor of social justice at the University of Stellenbosch and a former public protector. Professor, good afternoon to you and thank you for your time today. Is it fair to say that the Tourism Minister crossed a line with her comments about the judiciary?
Good afternoon, Stephen. I wasn't invited to comment about the Minister, but I do think that the comments were personal. I think the tone is personal instead of institutional, and I think it was fair of the acting Chief Justice to say, for this comment to be fair, it should have been very specific about cases where the judiciary may have let down the poor. And certainly the comments about the rule of law were totally way out of line. And I say this with a sad heart because I have fondness for Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, whom I have known since before democracy and have been close to the family. And I know her to be a good person. And therefore, her comments sounded more like they were penned by somebody like Kim Heller than by herself.
She obviously does have a right to freedom of speech, and there's been such a big reaction from so many people to what she said. I mean, where do we draw the line? I mean, if you hold a position as a minister, as she does, is there a limitation on your right to freedom of speech?
No, there's no limitation on the right to freedom of speech other than the limitations in the Constitution that include ethics and hate speech. Firstly, the minister is an employee of the state, and therefore whatever she says should be within the requirements of Section 96 of the Constitution regulating the conduct of members of the executive. Even though she was writing in her capacity as an ANC person, but she's one human being who also is bound by Section 96, which says members of the executive have to behave in such a way that they do not bring government into disrepute, among other things, in addition to issues of conflict of interest. She's also bound by Section 195. But there's another issue, Stephen. The minister, as many have pointed out, has been a minister for over 2 decades and a member of the decision-making structures, or the powers that be, so to speak. So it was surprising for me to see her talking about the powers that be as if she had always been outside and is not responsible for whatever was done or failed to be done.
Why do you think we keep having politicians attacking our judges? It seems to happen consistently.
I'm not sure about Minister Sisulu, but for others, they attack judges when they are under pressure because they're being held accountable, and then they sort of turn the tables on the judiciary in trying to get public sympathy by saying, I'm a good person. The only horrible people are these people in the judiciary. And a lot of the attacks are meant to erode the legitimacy of the judiciary.
Professor Thuli Madonsela, Professor of Social Justice at the University of Stellenbosch, a former public protector, ma'am, I really do appreciate the time on The Pulse. Thank you very much indeed.